Senate will return to order. Secretary, read the caption of Senate Bill 399.
Senate Bill 399 by Senator Harbin of the 16th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 3 of Chapter 11 of Title 31 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to personnel of emergency medical service so as to provide for notification to public safety answering points about the location of automated external defibrillators, to provide for rules and regulations, to provide for training, to amend Chapter 8 of Title 35 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to employment and training of peace officers so as to provide for training of communication officers, to facilitate the use of automated external defibrillators, to provide for definitions, to provide for related matters, to provide for a short title, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Public Safety recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Albers, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Public Safety offers the following substitute to SB 399, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 3 of Chapter 11 of Title 31 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to personnel of emergency medical services so as to provide for notification to public safety answering points about the location of automated external defibrillators and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
I recognize the senator from the 16th to speak to Senate Bill 399.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate it. You know, we handle a lot of bills in a lot of different areas of law and people, but how things approach us. And this bill came to me a little over a year ago, or at least the concept. One of my constituents came to me, and their son passed away. And I listened to what happened. I listened to the events around it, and I thought about it and thought about it and thought about it, and I said, you know what? There's some things that we can do. In the day in which we know so much we know already, we just need to bring this together. And so I want to read you just a little bit, and then what the bill will do. It says, this is the Mason Sells Act, and is named after their son, Mason. And Scott and Rachel Sells are with me over here on the fireplace side as we hear this bill. And let me read this. On September the 24th of 2024, Mason Sells of Peachtree City was struck in the chest with a soccer ball while playing with friends. His heart stopped and was not reached by paramedics with an AED for 13 minutes. He ultimately passed away. There was an unknown AED less than 1 mile away, one that was locked also in a building. That same day, another young man was struck in the chest while playing sports, and he was reached by an AED within 3 minutes, and he lived. The bill aims to prevent other tragedies like this that befell Mason and his family by creating a map of local AEDs in public facilities across the state and providing 911 services with their location. 911 operators will also be trained how to teach the everyday citizen that calls on 911 not only how to do cellular CPR, but also how to do AED and how to do that for the person that's there. Here's the part. CPR keeps the blood flowing, keeps it moving, but it does not bring the heart back. Only the AED does that. Today, as we do this, I hope your support that we'll be able to pass this bill in honor of Mason, a young man who had a life before him. And, you know, none of us can count anything as for certain. But this young man had life before him, and if we had been able to look at that, and I looked at many of the college campuses, they're mapped, but they were not coordinated with 911. What this bill will do, it will create a map of locations of AEDs across the state. It will provide 911 emergency centers the locations of those AEDs. It will also create a collaboration with the Georgia Emergency Communication Authority and the Georgia Public Safety Training Center, and a roadmap for implementation of a training program for all 911 emergency services on phone instructions for both CPR and AED for lay people. I want to thank the senator from the 56, our chairman for safety. He helped me walk this thing through, and we have a phenomenal asset in him to help us deal with the issues of safety. And I believe this is something that's doable. Bear with me, when you can go onto your phone and type in a restaurant and find every restaurant in the area, we should be able to find every ADE that's on a college campus or in another place and be able to reach out and make that, and our 911 operators be trained for that. And with that, Mr. President, I really appreciate this body giving their full consideration to this bill.
Senator, there are no questions.
No questions. Thank you very much for your favorable consideration.
Thank you, Senator. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? The chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the previous question is ordered. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor will vote yea, opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Senator from the 9th, you want to vote? On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 49 and the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Chair recognizes the senator from the 16th.
Could I take a moment of a personal privilege just to bring them forward and give them a round of applause for having the courage to follow that?
Can I have them stand up? Yeah, we appreciate the Sales family for being with us today. Thank you for your advocacy on this important issue. Senator from 31st, what purpose do you rise?
Mr. President, it's unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 1st and the 42nd.
Without objection, the senator from the 1st and the 42nd are excused. Secretary, read the caption of Senate Bill 441.
Senate Bill 441 by Senator Harbin of the 16th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 83 of Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to local government investment pools so as to require certain pooled investments to be approved by the State Depository Board, to exempt certain pooled investments from such approval, to provide for an effective date and applicability, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Banking and Financial Institutions recommend that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Summers, Chairman. Mr. President, that completes the order.
I recognize the senator from the 16th to speak to Senate Bill 441.
Though all bills are important, some are more closely held than others, and I thank this body for their support and for their help on the last bill for the Mason Sales bill, coordination bill. This bill is a little bit different. SB 441 is local government investment pools, a little bit different. It says the purpose is to give the state oversight over the creation of new local government investment pools. Currently, the State Depository Board manages about $82 billion in assets that are from municipalities, state organizations, things of that nature, and there's a team that handles all of that investment side. This bill is to protect the finances of the state, provide a level of state oversight in the creation of LGIPs, prevent fraud, and provide a backup to identify bad actors before they have a chance to act. Localities don't have the resources, or local communities don't have the resources that the states have to keep their communities safe in the area of investments. This legislation will give the state the ability to do analysis in the nature of LGIPs for high-risk investments to assure stable growth. The finances of our state and local communities are interconnected in many ways. In 2007, the Securities and Exchange Commission seized control of the state of Florida's finances because of a false rumor that had occurred with a LGIP that contained subprime bonds. This legislation would help prevent that by giving the state oversight in the creation of these funds. It also prevents fraudsters from taking advantage of these municipalities by giving their proposal an additional level of protection with the oversight of the State Depository Board. The state has a professional team that manages that $82 billion, and that these smaller organizations and locales and cities and counties do not have. And what this does, it protects them so that if they want to bring up a new one, they have to have the oversight of the State Depository Board. And with that, Mr. President, any questions?
See no questions, Senator. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. Report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none, and main question is ordered. Question is on the passage of the bill. All those in favor of the bill will vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 49, the nays are 0. This bill having received the requisite constitutional majority is therefore passed. Chair recognizes the senator from the 43rd. What purpose do you rise?
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 22nd.
Without objection, the senator from the 22nd is excused. Secretary will read the caption of Senate Bill 470.
Senate Bill 470 by Senators Alberts of the 56th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 11 of Title 16 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to offenses against public order so as to prohibit the possession, use, operation, manufacture, sale, offer for sale, distribution, or import of signal jammers, to specifically authorize the Attorney General to commence forfeiture proceedings, to provide for exemptions, to provide for definitions, to provide for a short title, to provide an effective date, to provide for a related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Judiciary recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Judiciary Committee offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 470, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 11 of Title 16 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to offenses against public order so as to prohibit the possession, use, operation, manufacture, sale, offer for sale, distribution, or import of signal jammers, to establish criminal offenses, to provide for penalties, to require that certain penalties shall not be suspended, stayed, deferred, or withheld by the sentencing court, and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
I recognize the senator from the 56th to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 470 is the Emergency and Public Safety Signal Protection Act. This creates a new felony crime for the use, possession, and distribution of signal jammers. It creates penalties and specifically increases those penalties if public safety or other critical infrastructure is targeted. It makes jammer devices classified as contraband, and they are subject to forfeiture and impose mandatory prison time. What are signal jammers? You may have seen this in the movies or on television. From a small handheld device that might get a room to something that can take out an entire building from a football field away, it will disrupt all communications. Cell phone, Wi-Fi, satellite, GPS, radio, rendering them with no communication from alarms or for 911 centers, no ability to call for help. This dangerous new technology must be thwarted, and I'm grateful to the Lieutenant Governor and his office, as well as our very own Georgia Bureau of Investigation, for helping to create this important legislation. Section 2 of this bill clearly defines the different terms used in signal jammers, continues on through the subsections of Section 2, which talks about the different levels of penalties and fines, and eventually talks about those who also are creating and distributing those devices. Ultimately, this bill creates a couple of exceptions for both state, which would be that and our local governments, and the federal government, who use these for specific purposes in order to protect our homeland and our first responders. This is a very straightforward bill, and I ask for each one of you to vote green to protect our citizens and all those who serve to protect us. Mr. President, if there are no questions, I will yield the well.
No questions, Senator.
Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? The chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question be it ordered? The chair hears none, and the previous question is ordered. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing the report of the committee, which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor of the bill vote yea, opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 47, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Secretary will read the caption of Senate Bill 472.
Senate Bill 472 by Senators Hickman of the 4th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated, relating to elementary and secondary education so as to provide for the suspension of members of local boards of education following certain audit findings or findings by the state auditor or financial mismanagement or misconduct, to provide a cap on the total amount of advanced distributions of state allotted funds that may be made by the State Board of Education to local units of administration, to provide for intervention plans, to provide for the authority of the state auditor relative to such intervention plans, to provide for an effective date, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Education and Youth recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Hickman of the 4th District, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Education and Youth offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 472, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated, relating to elementary and secondary education so as to provide for the suspension of members of local boards of education following certain audit findings or findings by the state auditor of financial mismanagement or misconduct, to provide for an employment contract terms, conditions, and limitations for local school superintendents under certain conditions, to provide for a cap on the total amount of advanced distributions of state allotted funds that may be made by the State Board of Education to local units of administration, to provide for plans for monitoring, supports, and intervention, to provide for the authority of the state auditor relative to such plans, to amend Chapter 6 of Title 50 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated, relating to the Department of Audits and Accounts so as to revise provisions for financial audits of local school systems and state charter schools by and on behalf of the Department of Audits and Accounts, to require the Department of Audits and Accounts to develop and implement a program of progressive monitoring, supports, and interventions to local school systems and state charter schools, to provide for investigations of local school systems by the state auditor, to provide for an effective date, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 4th to speak to the measure.
Mr. President, thank you so much. We could also call this the fiscal responsibility by school board members, and I think we all know in this session or in this chamber which school districts that caused this to happen. I'd first of all like to thank Greg Griffin, who's the state auditor, for working very closely with us on this bill, and also thank the Pro Tem's office for working so hard on this bill. It's a great bill. It puts a lot of fiscal responsibility on school board members. So let me tell you about the bill. And it's a little bit long, but I think it's important for us to all know about it. Senate Bill 472 protects students and families by holding local school districts accountable for financial mismanagement. The legislation strengthens the Georgia Department of Audits and Accounts tools to support local school systems by identifying issues early and creating a statewide fiscal monitoring and intervention system by July of this year. This bill authorizes the governor to suspend local school board members upon recommendation of the State Board of Education if the local board of education, a member thereof, a local school system, or local school superintendent is the subject of a finding by the state auditor of financial mismanagement or misconduct. Currently, the law allows local school board members to be suspended if the district nearly lost its accreditation or 1/2 or more of the schools in the local school system or turnaround eligible. This bill clarifies that, and this applies to local school board members who were serving at the time the school system was subject to the finding or loss of accreditation. Now, there's 2 triggers in this bill. The first trigger is if the state auditor designates a district as needing the highest level of monitoring intervention, suspension may begin. And the second trigger is if the state auditor finds financial wrongdoing after an investigation or suspension or proceedings may begin. When either of these triggers occur, the local superintendent must notify the state leadership within 3 days. The key shift in this bill is previously audit findings primarily triggered corrective actions. now they can trigger removal of the board members by the governor. I'd also like to thank the senator from the 37th, because Section 2 was primarily his suggestion that we all voted on and agree with. This section was added in the Senate Education Use as an amendment. When a local school district is designated as a high-risk school system by the Department of Audits, the contract for the superintendent may not exceed 12 months. Makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Starting July 1, 26, any new contracts for school superintendents must include provisions that if the local school superintendent is the subject of a state auditor finding of financial mismanagement or misconduct following an investigation, or has knowingly failed or refused to comply with material requirement of the intervention plan, then that shall be cause for termination of the employment of the contract. There's also, the next section has to do with advanced distribution of state funds. And of course, there's extenuating circumstances sometime on this because of maybe tax collection not coming in on time and that type of thing. And so the state auditor then can come in and look at the particular situation, and they decide, the state auditor decides whether there can be an advancement of funds because the property taxes have not come in on time. So in Section 4, the Department of Audits and Accounts must implement all these programs by July 1, 26. In general, the Audit Department must create a system to monitor financial health of every school system and state charter system. This bill, as y'all well know, happened because a particular school district missed 14 payments, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 14 payments, totaling $6.1 million back to the state health plan benefit. And they also had not had an audit done for 6/30, 23, 24, and 25. That's the primary purpose what caused this bill to come up. The department must also produce regular fiscal condition reports, and districts must maintain audit-ready financial statements. The state auditor may authorize CPA firms to perform required audits, but only with the approval and standards. If the state auditor does an audit on a school system, that is no charge to the school system. Some of our school systems go outside of that privilege and go and hire outside auditors, outside CPAs, and I am one, outside auditors, and they have to pay for it. They can only, under this bill, they can only go outside and hire those outside auditors if the state auditor approves of the standards and the work papers that they produce. The state auditor may initiate full investigation when warning signs appear, such as financial irregularities, governance concerns, and evidence of misconduct. This legislation authorizes the state to make an investigation of any local school system or state charter system. Mr. President, this is a great bill, and I would encourage everyone to vote green on it, and the second time I'm going to yield the well. Thank you, sir.
Senator's yielded the well. Chair recognizes the senator from the 35th. He waves. Oh, all right. Senator from the. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair recognizes the senator from the 35th.
All right, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for your time. I appreciate the intent of this bill. I do have concerns about unintended consequences. School board members are not in charge of operations, including financial operations. School board members' purpose is to hire and fire and hold responsible the school superintendent. And so this bill has a extra emphasis on school board members who are elected by the people. I'll say that again. This bill would have the responsibility be held by the school board members who are elected by the people. So this is another example of infringing upon the power of local government. So I've just been moved by this body's love affair with big government, getting involved in local matters every chance it gets. I am not in support of this bill. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 6th to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to emphasize, you know, there's been some school systems that have messed up, but all of them have not. And I don't feel like SB 472 is an indictment on all of them, and it shouldn't be. I'll brag on Coweta County school system. I'll brag on Heard County school system. I'll brag on Carroll County school system. We're getting it right. And many other school systems are, so please don't think that SB 472 is against you. Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none, and the previous question is ordered. Question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor of the bill will vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Chair recognizes the senator from the 31st. Waves. Senator from the 35th, what purpose do you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry. Is it not true that there are measures in place to hold school systems accountable with current law?
Senator, there are, but apparently they were not enough for the City of Dublin school system.
Is it not is it not true that we have members of this
Senator,
body
what
that
purpose do you rise?
point of parliamentary inquiry,
State
and
your
that's time.
parliamentary inquiry, Senator.
Another freshman. All right, we'll try again.
On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 40, the nays are 8. The bill having received the requisite constitutional majority is therefore passed by substitute. I want to thank the senator from the 4th for his hard work on this. My office worked closely with his. I represent Lawrence County. I represent 8 counties, but Lawrence County and the City of Dublin school system had some very egregious fiscal mismanagement, and this will allow us to address that if this comes up again in the future or if it comes up in other systems. And I thank you for your work on that, Senator. All right, the Secretary will read the caption of Senate Bill 500. I recognize the senator from the 6th. What purpose do you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. President, is it not true that the most dangerous place in this state capitol is standing between a microphone and our freshman senator from the 35th?
You know, that's a good point, Chairman. Between that and pushing the wrong button. So if you look at your buttons, Senators, one of them says RTF. That means request to go to the floor. The other one is RTS, just request to speak from your desk. There's a chart in your desk that it will help you in the future. Thank you very much. All right, the Secretary will read the caption to Senate Bill 500.
Senate Bill 500 by Senator Hodges of the 3rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 10 of Title 49 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to the Georgia Board of Healthcare workforce so as to expand the behavioral healthcare workforce database to include data from licensed healthcare professionals, to revise definitions, to rename such database as the Healthcare Workforce Database, to provide for conforming changes, to provide for related matters, to appeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Health and Human Services recommend that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Watson of the 1st District, Chairman. Mr. President, that completes the order.
I recognize the senator from the 3rd to speak to Senate Bill 500. Let's give the senator your attention, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I bring you Senate Bill 500. It is an attempt to assist the Georgia Board of Healthcare Workforce in their mission to make sure that Georgia has the appropriate number of healthcare providers wherever in our state that they are needed. This bill enhances an existing data system by adding a system of healthcare providers across our state by adding 9 licensing boards and agencies to report data on their licensees to the Georgia Board of Healthcare Workforce, so that board can accurately collect and analyze data to measure the state's adequacy of professionals, healthcare professionals in all parts of our state. The bill allows the board to enter into agreements with licensing entities to collect information on their licensees, to create, to house, and to provide information for the governor, the General Assembly, state agencies, and the public regarding our healthcare workforce. The bill allows the board to seek federal or other funding for these purposes. The bill says that the board can create and maintain a dashboard on its website to provide information on our healthcare workforce to the public. And the bill establishes a minimum data set survey to be utilized to collect data from healthcare providers. Bill also includes, let me mention that that data would not include any personal data, no names, no social security numbers of any healthcare provider. The bill does include to the data set the types of insurance that's accepted by the healthcare providers and whether they accept Medicare and Medicaid. So this information that's collected by the board will be used for planning and managing our healthcare workforce for all of Georgia and for information for our public. With that, Mr. President, I'll yield any questions.
No questions, Senator.
Thank you. I yield the well.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none, and the previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there a objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Question is on the passage of the bill. All those in favor of the bill vote yea. Opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 46 and the nays are 3. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. The Secretary will read the caption to Senate Bill 513.
Senate Bill 513 by Senators Dickerson of the 21st and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 20 and Chapter 5 of Title 40 of the OCGA relating to elementary and secondary education and driver's license respectively, so as to revise requirements for public school policies and procedures relative to student attendance, to provide for multi-tier supports and interventions, to revise provisions relative to attendance review teams, to provide for attendance intervention plans, to provide for consequences for chronically unexcused students, such as ineligibility for interscholastic and extracurricular activities and potential ineligibility to be issued an instruction permit or driver's license by the Department of Driver Services, to provide for related matters, to provide for an effective date, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Education and Youth recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Hickman of the 4th District, Chairman. Mr. President, that completes the order.
I recognize the senator from the 21st to speak to Senate Bill 513. Senator from Cherokee County. Long, tall senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, colleagues, friends, I rise today to present Senate Bill 513, the Everyday Counts Act. At its core, this legislation is about one simple truth. Students cannot learn if they're not in the classroom. Chronic absenteeism continues to be one of the greatest barriers to academic success in Georgia. When students miss school, especially without excuse, they fall behind, and catching up becomes harder with each passing day. This bill does not begin with punishment, it begins with support. Senate Bill 513 requires local school systems to implement a 3-tiered framework to promote attendance. First, school-wide strategies that encourage every student to show up. Second, targeted supports for students who are at risk of falling into chronic absenteeism. And third, individualized attendance intervention plans for students who become chronically unexcused. Parents are involved, students are involved, schools are involved. Plans must be written, acknowledged, and reviewed monthly by attendance teams. Only when a student fails to comply with a developed intervention plan do consequences come into play, such as temporary ineligibility for extracurricular activities or potential delay in receiving a driver's permit. These are privileges, and this bill reinforces the connection between responsibility and opportunity. This legislation strengthens accountability while ensuring supports come first. It aligns our education system with the expectation that regular attendance is essential to success. Colleagues, every day truly does count. I respectfully ask for your favorable consideration of Senate Bill 513. Thank you, Mr. President. I'll yield for questions or yield the well.
Senator, I don't know that I've ever seen the board so lit up. You do have some questions.
Thank you, Mr. President.
The chair recognizes the senator from the 56th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Does the senator yield for a series of questions?
I will always yield to my friend of the 56.
Senator, isn't it true that you grew up and are kind of a favored son of Cherokee County, Georgia?
The senator knows of which he speaks.
Senator, isn't it true that you went to Cherokee County schools?
Yes, Senator, I did.
And Senator, isn't it true that we share that, myself, the senator from 32nd, we share that school district we represent. We know the school superintendent, the school board members, the teachers, and the vital records office personnel. Isn't that true?
The senator knows of which he speaks.
Senator, isn't true that I've got your attendance record here from high school? Could you comment on absenteeism as it pertains to your own personal circumstance for this Senate body?
To the senator, to the best of my knowledge, that may be untrue.
Well done, Senator.
All right, does the senator further yield for questions?
Mr. President, I further yield.
All right, good sport. Chair recognizes the senator from the 23rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the senator yield?
I will most certainly yield to my seatmate from the 23rd.
Every day counts. Is that not true, Senator?
That is correct, sir.
Would you share with the Senate how you start every day?
I start every day at 3:30 a.m., sir.
All right, and what sustenance do you receive? The Senator further yield. What sustenance do you receive when you start your day?
Could you expand on that, please, Senator?
Is it not true? Is it not true, Senator, that you are prone to consume a pie? What is the first word of the pie?
That would be moon pie, Senator.
Moon pie. What size, Senator further yield, what size moon pie?
That would be the original size moon pie.
The original
Senator.
size wasn't bad. And one final question, if I may.
Yes,
Could
sir.
you please define how everyday counts fits with moral turpitude?
I'll be happy to. Every day counts. Whether you're, regardless of what walk of life you come from, every day counts. And what I was been told is whenever it comes to how you're supposed to live your life every day. And I'll define moral turpitude this way. When it's evil, when it's repulsive, when it's just strictly whenever it comes to...
when your mama don't like it.
Well, what I was going to say, Senator, is that what my grandmother always told me is moral turpitude is those type of situations that you get yourself in to when you're and it's so vile that your grandmother stands up in public and starts praying out loud.
Amen. Thank you, Senator. I appreciate your bill. Look forward to supporting it.
Thank you, Senator.
Good answer, Senator. Chair recognizes the senator from the 32nd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator, would you yield for a serious question?
I will most definitely yield to the senator of the 32nd.
My question's about lines 76 and 77 that has to do with Tier 2. And I would like to know what on earth is a student who's at risk of becoming chronically unexcused?
76 and 77, thank you so much. So we have pushed this legislation back to the school system. We want to make sure that from a local standpoint that the schools are involved, and we understand the school districts in Bibb County may not be the same as in Clayton County, and it may not be the same in Cherokee County. So we're allowing each school district and each school itself to further define what that is. We give them the guardrails, we give them the rails of what we want it to work within, and we define that chronic absenteeism rate. But whenever it comes to tier 2, we're going to leave that up to each individual school district to further define that.
Thank you so much.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 27th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, do you yield?
I will most certainly yield to my friend from the 27th.
All right. I also have a question about the same code section, lines 74 to 79, where you appear to be setting up a new 3-tier system in the state of Georgia. Can you outline for us what the existing 3-tier system does in the state of Georgia?
Senator, I cannot.
Is it not true? Do you further yield?
Yes, sir.
Is it not true that the current 3-tier system has to do with the distribution of alcohol and wine?
Senator, I'm unaware of that legislation.
Senator, do you further yield?
I most certainly do.
Is there any reason why this bill seems to be desiring to introduce a 3-tier distribution system into the public school system? I'm a little confused by that.
No, Senator.
Well, that's all I had.
Thank you, Senator.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 13th.
Senator, do you yield?
I most certainly yield to my friend from the 13th.
Senator, when I walked in this chamber in 2019, I walked in mid-chamber, and the question was asking me from the previous rules chairman. So I'll ask you the same question he asked me. Who do you think is the most influential senator in this body?
Well, Senator, I'm going to defer to everybody else in here, and I'll most definitely refer that to the President of the Senate.
Good answer.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, do you yield?
I will most definitely yield to my friend from the 6th.
Senator, I've got some serious policy questions here. I was looking at lines 33 and 34, and I will read attendance intervention plan or plan. This is your definition, is it not true? And you define it by a plan means a plan approved by an attendance review team for a chronically excused student. And Senator, when I was in school, and actually attended school, My English teacher taught me not to define a word with that word. Did you not learn that, Senator?
I did not, Senator.
Did you skip school on that day, Senator?
It sounds like I did, Senator.
Wow. Senator, would you further yield?
I will most certainly yield.
I do have a question about Section 6. Your effective date is on January 1st, 2027. Is that not true?
That is true.
And where you're from, when does school start?
School starts August the 1st.
So, Senator, if you'll further yield, which I know you will, the first semester of school, are they allowed to be completely absent as much as possible?
Could you further define your question, Senator?
Senator, if your policy starts on January 1st, is it not true the first semester it would not apply?
The Senator is correct for 2026.
So what about 2027?
This plan will go into effect as of January 1st, 2027. It will be applicable for August the 1st, the first semester of 2027.
But, Senator, does it not say it's effective on January 1st?
It does, Senator.
So what about the previous semester?
Well, Senator, whenever, from my understanding from Legislative Council, they prefer to start most dates on the first day of the year. And so we will defer to Legislative Council for that question.
Senator, are you telling me you didn't write your own bill?
You are correct, sir.
Good move.
I'm going to recognize one more senator. Senator from the, one more for you there, Mr. Freshman. Senator from the 19th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, you yield?
I will most definitely yield to my friend from the 19th.
Thank you for helping me understand your bill better. If I understand it correctly, what happens if a student is missing more than 5 days in the first 50 days of school, you mandate they have to have a certain type of meeting. What is the name of it?
That would be the attendance intervention plan.
And that's, so you mandate that if they aren't there for the first 5 days, right?
That is correct, sir.
And if they aren't there 10% of the time after the first 50 days, you mandate that meeting again, correct?
That is correct, sir.
Is there any funding connected to this bill?
We've not received any a fiscal note on this, Senator.
So no
but from our understanding, we're unaware that we should not need one. We're going to leave that up to each school district.
Will you yield for one final question then?
I will, sir.
I understand you were in quite a bruising campaign, a very busy campaign. When I looked at your campaign website, I didn't see any opportunity that you talked about running on unfunded mandates. Did you think about that when you introduced this bill?
No, sir. I'm doing what's best for the people of the state of Georgia and for Cherokee County.
Thank you.
That's a good one to close on. I love that close. Senator, you can yield the well.
I will yield the well. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. So as you all know, it's a tradition to tease freshman senators, but this is a serious measure, and he's put a lot of hard work into it. It came out of a study committee, bipartisan study committee over the interim. We know that consistent attendance is one of the strongest predictors of academic achievement, graduation rates, and long-term success. So this is serious, and I will now go through my script and we will vote on it. Does any senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Senator from the 33rd, what purpose do you rise?
I was just going to remind this freshman senator that when the bell rings, count to 60 and then vote.
All right. Thank you, Senator. All right. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair recognizes the 6th. What purpose do you rise?
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 8th.
Without objection, the senator from the 8th is excused. Chair recognizes the senator from the 38th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I rise to support this bill, and I thank the Senator for the 21st for a very good job. He handled himself very well. But as someone that served on the study committee, I felt compelled to get up and speak of the importance of attendance in education. We do so much work in here, thanks to the leadership of the Senator from the 4th on literacy. But if we do not have kids' butts in seats, they are not going to learn, and we'll continue to have an issue with our academic scores. And so when you have rates reaching up towards 20% of students that are chronically absent, we have to do all that we can to get kids in these seats. And so the great thing about this bill is it focuses on support before punishment. To help students improve attendance before facing consequences. And so I know some folks may have some heartburn about the consequences, but there are so many opportunities to involve and engage parents before we get to any of the consequences that occur. So I was just coming to urge your strong support for Senate Bill 513. Thank you, and I yield the will.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 4th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator, for bringing this bill. I just want to remind people that what we in literacy have been watching the last several years, and we've been having to follow the lead of Alabama and Mississippi. And a lot of stuff of what you're seeing is because of what they've accomplished. And it's a sad day for Georgia to have to follow these states, but it's a great day for them because they are doing so well. One thing that we've seen in the last few days is some polls that have come out that has shown as Alabama and Mississippi's literacy rates have increased, their chronic absenteeism rates have decreased. Those two states now are very close to leading the nation in the decreasing of chronic absenteeism. So as we teach our kids to read, they're going to want to go to school and they want to be a part of it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 35th to speak to the motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know we're having good fun here. But during my time on the school board, as many of you served on the school board, you heard a lot from teachers who had their plate full and given more things to do from the state and not resources to do it. This plan is amazing. I love the plan, but this plan also takes time, effort, and energy, and time takes money. And as a state, we continue to say a thing, but we don't back it up with money, with funding. While our schools are still struggling to deal with the rising insurance costs, health insurance costs, with energy costs, trying to pay for their staff, it's very, very difficult for our educators, and they are trying to do everything. They would love to implement this plan and others dictated by this body, but this is a mandate. It's a wonderful mandate, but it is unfunded, and I'm speaking against the bill specifically for that reason. We don't have money attached to it, and it makes it harder for our educators, and they're already at their end. Thank you.
Senator from the 50th, okay, you got the right button now. Come to the front.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to the freshman senator for bringing this. I want to commend the efforts. I think a lot of you, like me, have heard directly from school teachers about the issue of absenteeism in classrooms, and we have been asked directly from teachers to address this issue. I've heard that this is an unfunded mandate, first in jest from the senator from the 19th, and then from another senator a minute ago. This bill gives teachers the ability to teach students. This is not an unfunded mandate. This is a necessary tool to allow students to be in the classroom and give teachers the tools to put them there. I am strongly in support of this legislation, and I ask that we light this board up green for our teachers. Thank you.
All right, pursuant to Senate rule, the senator from the 21st district has the right to close debate. Does he wish to close debate? And the senator waves. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none. The main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill. All those in favor of the bill will vote yea. Those opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Chair recognizes the senator from the 14th. What purpose do you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. President.
State your inquiry.
Mr. President, the more I think about this bill, the more I feel like the Senate could use something like this, like a chronically unexcused senator. You know, you walk on 5 votes or something, and maybe we come up with a plan for attendance. What do you think, Mr. President?
Senator, we all are very busy. There are committee meetings going on. There's constituents here to visit with. I mean,
that's a very serious answer. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. On the passage, on the passage of the bill, yeas are 46, the nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Good job, Senator. Chair recognizes the senator from the 21st. What purpose do you rise?
Mr. President, I would ask for this bill to be immediately transmitted over to the House.
Senator has moved that the bill be... Read the caption. All right. Attention. Talk about overreach. Senator recognizes, Chair, the chair today. Chair recognizes the senator from the 21st. What purpose do you rise?
Mr. President, I want to withdraw that motion.
Wise beyond his years. Thank you. Senator from the 41st, what purpose do you rise?
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 44th for her absenteeism.
Without objection, the senator from the 44th is excused. Secretary, read the caption of Senate Bill 535.
Senate Bill 535 by Senator Kirkpatrick of the 32nd. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 37 of the OCGA relating to mental health so as to provide for the recreation of community service boards, to amend Code Section 50-14-1 of the OCGA relating to meetings open to the public, limitation on action to contest agency action, recording, notice of time and place, access to minutes, and teleconferences, so as to revise a provision authorizing community service boards to conduct teleconference meetings under certain circumstances, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Health and Human Services recommend that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Watson of the 1st District, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Health and Human Services offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 535, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 37 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to mental health so as to provide for the recreation of community service boards, to reconstitute the governing boards of community service boards, and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
I recognize the senator from the 32nd to speak to Senate Bill 535.
Thank you. Thank you. Senate Bill 535 is an agency bill for DBHDD, and it's meant to strengthen and provide greater accountability among our 22 CSBs, Community Service Boards. This bill was brought to me by our former colleague, Commissioner Kevin Tanner. CSBs are the safety net of the state's mental health care system, providing crisis and community-based care. Services across the state have been inconsistent for years. This bill has two goals. First, it seeks to provide greater oversight and accountability for our state CSBs by reforming their governance. Second, it seeks to allow DBHDD to establish uniform minimum service requirements. This has been a collaborative process. You'll find on your desk two letters, one from the Georgia Association of Community Service Boards in support, and one from ACCG in support. So I hope that you all will join me in trying to make our CSBs more consistent and more accountable. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
You must have done a great job explaining it. I know you did a great job explaining it because there are no questions.
Thank you. I'll yield the well.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? The chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the previous question is ordered. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor will vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 45 and the nays are 2. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Chair recognizes the senator from the 31st. What purpose do you rise?
Mr. President, I move the Senate stand adjourned to pursuant to H.R. 998 until 1 p.m. Tuesday, March 3rd.
The senator from the 31st has moved that the Senate stand adjourned until 1 p.m. All right, y'all listen now. We're adjourning until 1 p.m. on Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026. That's 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Tuesday, March 3rd. Does the majority leader wish to speak to his motion? He waves. All right, on the motion to adjourn by the majority leader, is there objection? All right, chair recognizes the senator from the 22nd, the minority leader, to speak to the objection. She didn't have her button pushed, but I'll recognize the senator from the 41st to speak to the objection.
Thank you, Mr. President. We rise to object to this motion because there are important bills that remain on the calendar for today. Most importantly, it's a bill about affordability. And so if we are to punt this down the road even further, once more we deny Georgians an opportunity to have more affordable energy bills. So we object to this motion and urge you all to continue with the calendar as outlined.
The majority leader has moved that the Senate stand adjourned pursuant to H.R. 998 until 1 p.m. on Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026. All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the motion to adjourn, the yeas are 26 and the nays are 20. The motion has prevailed and the Senate is adjourned. Secretary, read the announcements.
The Rules Committee will meet upon adjournment in room 450 of the Capitol. The Banking and Financial Institutions Committee has been canceled. The Judiciary Committee will meet in room 307 of the CLOB at 4 p.m. The Urban Affairs Committee will meet in room 125 of the Capitol at 4 p.m. The Regulated Industries and Utilities Committee will meet in room 450 of the Capitol at 5 p.m. The Insurance and Labor Committee will meet in room Mezzanine 1 at 6 p.m. Mr. President, that completes the order.